Howdy, guys. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you there. You see, I'm not actually a banana. I'm a person. And what a person I am. I'm celebrating the one holiday that leaves me with piss stains in my bed for weeks. Every year I try to outdo myself on how scared I am. I mean, last year, I bought this. How could I outdo that, is what I first thought, but now I believe I found something even scarier. Alright, I'm about to recite the scariest phrase known to man, printed straight from the Necronomicon itself. Hey Billy, what are you playing on your iPad? Sorry, I blacked out. What happened? Did I look at it for too long? And why is there piss everywhere?
The internet has changed the way we live our lives in almost every way, let alone video games. Of course, there's the advent of things like digital distribution and online multiplayer, but it's also changed the way we discover new games. Back in the 80s and 90s, and even the 2000s to an extent, the only way your game could sell well is if you were a well-known first-party or third-party game developer. Then, a little thing called the internet becomes a little more mainstream, and now it's easier than ever to get your game out there. This has made the indie game a lot more feasible. But another way your game can become popular very quickly is with the process of going viral. Viral games are either praised obscenely by those who play them or maligned by those who don't care about them. They get very popular in a short amount of time, all because it's the cool thing to do. Most people don't actually care about these games, they just play them because their friends do, because their favorite YouTuber does. I've been affected by this myself, having participated in many gaming trends from the mid to late 2010s. So because I'm some kind of weird crazed masochist, I'm gonna revisit many of these old games. Who knows, I'll maybe revisit past memories or make new terrifying ones.
Now to answer the dreaded question, what would be the perfect example of a viral game? Well, it would probably be this. There is now 10% more piss in this room.
Ah, good old-fashioned Minecraft. I have a weird history with this game. I can remember playing the Xbox 360 version of the game all the way back in 2012. Then I played the game on and off for the next 8 to 9 years, and then I stopped playing it altogether. Nowadays, I prefer to play the Nintendo Switch version of the game since it's still regularly updated, and it comes with this really cool Mario level. Okay, so I travel around this blocky Nintendo 64-style world, punch some trees, and we have a house. There's also the more sandbox-based creative mode, where we have unlimited access to build anything we want beyond the wildest crevices of our imagination. It's kind of surprising to see how far this game has come. It went from a one-man indie project to becoming the game everyone was playing, so much so that Microsoft bought the game. Hell, the default character is now playable in Super Smash Bros., so if that's not a testament, I don't know what is. Now let's get a little more festive. Another type of game that tends to go viral is the indie horror game. Now, why do you think a horror game would be popular on the internet?
Huh, my bladder exploded.
Pretty soon, reaction compilations of these games racked up millions of hits all over the internet. I guess the one that technically started the trend was that shitty Scary Maze game, but
I have priorities.
Slender was the first viral horror game that was actually scary. Instead of being cheap jump scares, it was, well, cheap jump scares, but was also mixed with a very tense atmosphere. You're placed in a dark forest looking for what I can only assume are someone's art class projects from 2nd grade. Unfortunately, the presumed creator of these pages, Blank-Faced McChild Abductor, is trying to come after you, so it has you spending most of the game scrambling for pages while avoiding the Slender Man, or else he'll stare at you with static.
Dear God!
Yeah, these are the fabled jump scares. They're not scary. Sure, the lead up to them can be pretty tense if you don't know when they're coming, but then after that, nothing. You're just annoyed and enjoying the experience less. Of course, though, overactive e-celebs really pulled in the big bucks for the game. As such, many other developers were inspired to dip their toes into the Slender business. For example, here's Slendytubbies. It's Slender Man, but with Teletubbies. This game has 2 sequels, God help us all. However, there was a Slender clone that managed to get more dust into the ring of the indie horror game. Baldi's Basics in Education and Learning.
The first post-horror game.
Baldi's Basics is a not-so-subtle parody of educational games mixed with the horror elements of Slender Man. On the surface, it appears to just be some jank 90s educational game, clearly taking inspiration from games like Mario Teaches Typing and Sonic Schoolhouse. However, when you get a question wrong, the teacher frowns! It then suddenly becomes clear that this is more like Slender Man, collecting notebooks while avoiding all the wacky characters. Did I say subtle? I meant hitting you over the head with a frying pan with the word horror written on it. It can't do either concept right. It relies on jump scares too much, so it's not scary, and the educational game parts are overplayed to the point of parody.
Wait a minute.
On the other hand, here's Doki Doki Literature Club. It does everything Baldi's Basics failed at, right. It's disguised as an anime dating simulator, but rather than beat you over the head with cliched and overplayed parodies, it actually does its best to convince you it's real. Sure, there's subtle hints here and there, and not so subtle warning screens at the beginning of the game, but for the rest of it, the characters and story are so well written, you'd almost forget it was a horror game. You're introduced into the Literature Club, and are introduced to the 4 main club members, all of which are cute anime girls. They have poetry to show me, and I have to figure out which one I should date. Man, it sure would be a shame if they all die. Oops. When the horror begins, it begins. The game becomes increasingly unstable, crashing at times, and characters start freaking out. As it turns out, this is all the doing of the club's leader, Monica. Her AIs become rogue, and she's desperate for you to date her. The game then shifts from being really scary to getting really meta. Monica's been deleting the girl's character files in order to get rid of them. So, in order to defeat her, you have to actually open the game's property files and delete her character file. It's an absolutely insane meta experience. The game became really popular for obvious reasons, and so it got a full-on expansion, and rightfully so. However, speaking of expansions...
Nice save.
Here's Five Nights at Freddy's. This is the first indie horror game that I personally played. I remember hearing about it basically when it came out, and it made waves. Within a year, the game had 3 sequels, a book, an in-the-works movie, and a f***ing Funko Pop toy line. So why was it so popular? Oh yeah. Five Nights at Freddy's is a survival horror game where you're placed as a security guard at a very sketchy pizza place. How sketchy? So sketchy that one of their former employees had allegedly murdered 5 children, shoved their corpses into the animatronic band members, which led to the children's spirits subsequently possessing the robots, causing them to become hostile and try to murder you. The game has an interesting concept. You can't move, and your only line of defense is some lights, some doors, your camera, and a very limited power source. You keep track of each of the robots on your cameras in order to prevent them from coming in your room and voring you? I don't know. Each robot has their own distinct path, which are easy to understand, but become increasingly difficult. Survive 5-6 hour night shifts and you win. The original game, while basic, was a breath of fresh air for the mostly Slender-based indie horror game genre. However, the game's developer, Scott Cawthon, saw the potential money that could be made here, so he sold out. Hard. There's the aforementioned sequels and book series, as well as RPG spin-offs, VR games, AR games, so much merchandise, and potential theme park attractions.
Slender Man could have had all that and more.
Now let's move on to the more recent viral games. First, there's Fortnite. I could have picked any game in the Battle Royale genre, but this is certainly the best example. Basically, you shoot people in a circle, like the Hunger Games, but for children who were born after that came out. This is an example of a manufactured viral game, not one that goes viral naturally. Rather, it's crafted to appeal to the biggest demographic they can. They get streamers to play the game, encouraging their young audience to play it as well. I avoided this game like the plague when it came out, until I tried it last year. I liked it a bit, but then I realized something horrible. It wasn't my thing!
You monster!
Then, of course, there's Among Us, a multiplayer game where you have to deduce which out of your astronaut crew is an alien imposter. Yeah. But now we have the most recent viral game that I can muster up the courage to play, Friday Night Funkin'. I actually like this. It's a rhythm game, so I already like it by default. Gameplay-wise, it's just DDR controlled with a keyboard. It's really solid to play though, and feels really satisfying when you get a song down. But where the main appeal of the game comes from is its graphics and music. The urban, angular art style is really appealing, and the music is really damn catchy. One thing people don't seem to mention about this game is that it's essentially a love letter to old Newgrounds animations, since not only is it hosted on Newgrounds, but many characters are actually from old Newgrounds animations and games. It went viral last year, and since then, it was announced that the game would be getting a full release. I really look forward to it and hope to pick it up.
And with that, I think I'm pissed. Not anger-wise, pants-wise. But how much better did I do? Right here, I got my Geiger meter. Now, let me just set it to the piss setting. Well, I'll be damned. I beat my record by a whole 7 liters. But what to do to celebrate such a momentous occasion? I know. I'll donate it to science.
Thank Thank you for calling Science Incorporated. How may we help you?
Yeah, this is
We're not
Ryle.
accepting any more of your piss.
Take my piss!